especially and in this under Sat Sri Akal, Rohini, Ashutosh. Fine, okay, right. I will give you proper time to note down everything. I am all right. With the wishes of all lovable students and with the blessings of God, I am all right, everyone. For the last 2 days, I was not well. Anyway, so allow me to start. Good afternoon, Balla. Allow me to start. If you are getting my reception properly, just let me know. Okay. So let me connect what we have discussed in the last two lectures and how we are going to proceed. See, in the last two lectures, what we have done, we have discussed about life forms, we have discussed about viruses, we have discussed about immunity, yes, we have discussed about vaccination, right? Then what we have done, we have discussed about cell as a basic unit of life, and finally we have discussed about mitochondria and especially and in this under this mitochondria we have discussed about the MTR that stands for mitochondrial gene transfer, right? So this was all discussion that we have already done in the last two lectures. We have done in last two lectures, right? In the same continuation here we are going to start the next S clusters. So this is the current topic of discussion that we are going to start. Right? So the next discussion that we are doing here यार आप एनी डेस्क पे हो क्या? हेलो, आप एनी डेस्क पे हो? आप
हेलो, हाँ सर,
आप एनी डेस्क पे हो?
ये सर एक्सेप्ट कीजिए।
ये देखो कुछ इसको जस्ट
वॉल्यूम इंक्रीज करना है सर।
हाँ, डू इट फास्ट।
एक मिनट
एंड ये दिस वन इसको हटाओ। This. यार ये सिंबल कैसे ये जो
है ना, ये सब म्यूट हो गया
एक
है।
मिनट I'm audible and visible. Am I audible and visible? Can you hear me? Okay, right. ये सिंबल नहीं जा रहा लेकिन this ये हैंग हो गया है मुझे लगता है. चलो ठीक है, ठीक है. So yes, so in the continuation of the class here, now what we are going to start here, it's a plastids, and this plastids is the characteristics of plant cells. It's the characteristics of the plant cells, fine, and right, it's the characteristics of the plant cells, and it helps in photosynthesis plus food storage, right? It helps in photosynthesis as well as food storage. Right. So when we talk about this plastids, see here, this is what, it's the plastid. It's the plastids. Clear? And there are three categories of plastids. One is chromoplast, second is chloroplast, and the third is leucoplast. Chromoplast is colored plastids. It is colored plastid. Chloroplast is green color plastid, while the leucoplast is colorless plastid. Right? And here the function of chloroplast, it is mentioned here. The function of chloroplast, I am mentioning here. The chloroplast is required for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the sole discussion of this chloroplast, while this leucoplast is to store, means storage of food material. Storage of food material. While this chromoplast, the function of chromoplast, you can see here, this imparts various color to flowers. This imparts various color to flowers. Fine. So ideally, plastids are the characteristics of the plant cells, and there are three categories of plastids. One is chloroplast, which is involved in photosynthesis. Second is chromoplast, which is colorless, which is colorful structure except the green color. It is colorful structure except the green color, because green color is the characteristics of the chloroplast, while the leucoplast is the colorless plastids, and the function of leucoplast is the storage of food material. Right. So the point is that here, why the chromoplast and the chloroplast, means how the chromoplast and the chloroplast are colorful structure. Right. If we talk about the colorful nature of, if we talk about the colorful nature of chromoplast and the chloroplast, if I talk about these two, so the colorful structure is because of various pigments. Fine, because of various pigments. So plants are either, means the plastids are either colorful, means this could be even green in color or even other color. If you just if you see, we have so many categories or so many varieties of the rose. Like we can also see the black rose, we can also see the red rose, we can also see yellow rose, we can also see even the other varieties of the rose. Like the same, we could also see the different colors of the flowers, right? So the different colors of the flowers are because of the plastids, and even the entire plant is basically dominated by green color pigment, and that green color pigment is lying where exactly in the chloroplast. So coming back to these pigments, coming back to the pigments, like see, coming back to the pigments, like when we talk about these pigments are photosynthetic pigments. These pigments are photosynthetic pigments, right? And these pigments are either carotene, which is orange or red in color. This is xanthophyll, which is yellow in color, or chlorophyll, which is green in color. Clear? So these are the pigments. So the first two pigments means the carotene and the xanthophylls. These pigments are lying where exactly? In chromoplast, while this chlorophyll, which is green in color, is lying exactly in chloroplast. So chloroplast is green in color because of the dominance of chlorophyll, while chromoplast is colorful structure because of the abundance of carotene and xanthophyll. Apart from the carotene and the xanthophyll, we also have plant also has so many other pigments, but we are not supposed to discuss to that extent, so that's why we are just talking about everything in a very concise manner as per the requirement of exam, right? So like example, see, tomato is red in color because of the carotene, mango is yellow in color because of the xanthophyll, right? The outer part of orange is yellow in color because of the abundance of the xanthophyll, right? Plant, initially most of the plant products are green in color because of the abundance of the chlorophyll. So from this particular point, we are going to discuss so many examples, so many concepts which is required for the exam, right? So see, when we talk about the use of, when we talk about the the requirement of the green fruit and vegetable, normally we are advisable to have the green salads, fruits and the vegetables. So this is what it is advisable. We should have one time at least throughout the day, we should go for at least one time salad, or we should go for the fresh fruits. Fine. Why? Because ultimately, whether we talk about the obviously, Preeti is talking about what about the other pigments like the anthocyanin. Preeti, if you can hear me, so I am just telling you, I am just talking about those pigments which is required as per the requirement of the exam. Apart from this, we have so many other pigments like what you are talking about, the anthocyanin. Anthocyanin is blue in color, and that is the part of this chromoplast. That is the anthocyanin. It's a blue in color. Again, this is what? One is a carotene, fine. The second is xanthophyll, fine. This third is the anthocyanin. No need to write. I'm just telling you because we need to discuss only these two pigments, carotene and the xanthophyll. Right? This question was asked by Preeti. That's why I'm replying. This anthocyanin is again one more pigment. Then again one more pigment is the phycocyanin. One more pigment is also there, that is the phycoerythrin. So apart from the chlorophyll, which is green in color, we have so many examples of the chromoplast. And any plant product is colorful in nature is because of the different color of the pigments, and these pigments could be the anthocyanin, phycocyanin, phycoerythrin, carotene, xanthophyll, so many pigments. But here we are just talking about the two different pigments. One pigment is the carotene and the second is the xanthophyll, right? So the carotene and the xanthophyll, these two are the categories of these two are the classical examples of the chromoplast. But apart from this, we also have provision of so many other categories, other pigments under the head of this chromoplast that we are not considering here. And when the plant is green in color, this is because of the chlorophyll. It is because of the chlorophyll. So the point is that here there was a question, and the question is what? We are advisable to have green fruits and vegetables. Why? Because green fruits and vegetables. Not only green fruits, green as well as colorful. Green as well as colorful fruits and vegetables. We are advisable to have. It is advisable to have. And these green fruits and vegetables are the good sources of what? These green fruits and vegetables are the good sources of the pigments. And these pigments are the good source of the antioxidants. These are the good source of antioxidants. Right? Antioxidant. And antioxidants are required to neutralize free radicals. It is required to neutralize free radicals. And the free radicals means what? Oxygen in monoatomic form, or hydrogen in monoatomic form, or chlorine in monoatomic form. These are the free radicals, right? So how these free radicals are going to be developed? Right? How these free radicals are going to be developed? See what happened. Oxygen is stable in O2 form, hydrogen is stable in S2 form, chlorine is stable in Cl2 form, and because of any means, if these elements are going to be split apart, and because of during the metabolism, if these elements are going to be split apart like this, oxygen plus oxygen, hydrogen plus hydrogen, chlorine plus chlorine, if these two are going to be, if the stable elements are going to be split apart, so the result is what? Free radicals. Result is the free radical, and these free radicals are going to be going to affect your internal cells or tissues, right? So just to neutralize these free radicals, we need to have antioxidant, and the green fruits and vegetables are the good supplement of the antioxidants. Am I audible? Am I audible properly? Am I audible properly? Right? So the point is that here, see, if I am coming to this question, you see here, you see, that was the question. That was the question in UPSC in 2011. The regular intake of the fresh fruit and vegetable is recommended in diet. Since they are the good source of the antioxidant. How do antioxidants help a person to maintain health and the promote longevity. Clear? And here the example is they neutralize free radicals producing in the body during metabolism. Right? And these free radicals are oxygen, hydrogen, chlorine. These are the monoatomic. These are highly reactive and unstable forms. Unstable forms. Right? So just to absorb these radicals, the regular intake of the fruit and vegetables are required because these are the source of antioxidant, and these antioxidants are nothing but pigments. And these pigments are what? Carotene, xanthophyll, phycocyanin, chlorophyll, etc. Right? Etc. Fine, okay. Yes? Fine. So here, this point of discussion is what? Coming to this point of discussion, and this point of discussion, it says that why green fruits and vegetables are required? Why? Because these green fruits and vegetables are required because these are the good source of antioxidant, and antioxidants are required to detoxify. You see, nowadays you heard about tea leaf is the good source of the antioxidant. In so many food products we are adding antioxidant. Now it's a very common this time. In a food article, this slogan is very common this time. And the slogan is what? That is the antioxidant rich food. So what is the intention of this antioxidant? The ultimate purpose of the antioxidant is what? The ultimate purpose of the antioxidant is just to detoxify you. So this antioxidant is nothing but the detoxifying agent, just to absorb, just to clear your toxicity. And this toxicity is nothing but now the element in monoatomic form, which is the result of the abnormality in the metabolism. And someone asked about what is metabolism. So metabolism is, it's a physiological aspect. Metabolism is a physiological aspect, and any metabolism aspect has two different subsets. One is the anabolism and the second is catabolism. Anabolism is the synthetic process and the catabolism is the breakdown process. So in the case of plant, photosynthesis is the anabolic aspect of the plant that involves food synthesis, and this synthesized food is followed by the breakdown process. And the intention of this food breakdown is the release of energy, and that energy is going to energize plant, which is required for the growth and development, right? So that process is the catabolism, right? So here, that was the question, what actually this metabolism is the physiological aspect. Physiological aspect that has two heads. One is anabolism and the second is catabolism. Anabolism is synthesis and the catabolism is breakdown process. Fine. Synthetic process is what? It's a photosynthesis. And the breakdown process is what? It's a respiration. The breakdown process is respiration. Fine. So I hope you understand, Namrata. Right? Fine. One more aspect. See, in this plastics. So the first part of this plastics, what we have discussed here, it is what about this is the first aspect of it is the first aspect of the plastic. That is what? This plastic consists of pigments, and these pigment acts as antioxidants. Right? Now, the next part would be what? Here. See, this chloroplast. Yes. Naina. Digestion in animal is the catabolic process. Digestion in animal is, in fact, digestion in animal is what? It's a catabolic process. That is the breakdown of right? In the case of human, right, we used to take food from the external sources, right? And then this food is followed by digestion and the breakdown, means energy generation. So digestion and the energy generation is the breakdown process in the case of human. But in the case of plants are blessed with the pigments, so plants are able to photosynthesize, and that's why plant is autotrophic in their mode of nutrition, right? So autotrophic mode of nutrition in the case of plant, that make a sense of plants are photosynthetic in nature. So plant has a tendency to make their own food material by carbon dioxide from atmosphere and water from soil. And the result is what? Carbohydrate. This process is nothing but the anabolism, and then this food is followed by the breakdown process, which is required. Let me elaborate this process here, so that you are going to understand. Plant used to take carbon dioxide from atmosphere and then water from soil, and the result is what? It's a glucose. This is the process of photosynthesis. This photosynthesis is anabolic process. Right? This photosynthesis is anabolic process. Then what happened? This glucose will turn down. This glucose is further followed by breakdown process. With the help of oxygen. And the result is what? Carbon dioxide plus water plus energy in the form of ATP. This is energy. And this energy is required for growth and metabolism. So this process, till this point, this is what? It's a photosynthesis, which is anabolic process. But this process is what? It's a respiration. And the respiration is catabolic process. It's a catabolism, right? And for any living species, right? For the survival of any living species, the anabolism and the catabolism are the two different aspects of the life. So as a whole, if we club these two, like anabolism and catabolism, so as a whole, these are known as metabolism. These are known as metabolism. Right? So I hope you understand. Saurav, Naina, Namrata, Fine. And listen, as a whole, you just try to make a clear perception. I am not talking about this question was asked by Jashir, but listen, I am just trying to make you understand in a very simple language. Rather, I am not talking about any particular case. Right? If you just look at any plant product, whether it is the fruit or vegetable, initially plant, fruits and vegetables are usually green in color. Usually green in color, it means initially plants are enriched with chloroplast, and then at maturity, see, the plant products are going to change its color, right? Going to change their color, like, see, the green color mango will turn into colorful mango, like this could be the yellow, or even sometimes we could also see the red color mango, right? Even the tomato is green in color, green tomato is turned into red tomato. Fine. We could also see lemon is initially green in color, and at maturity it is turned into the colorful structure. Even chili is green in color, but at maturity it is turned into the red color or even the different color. So the point is that right, it means whenever we are going to see like this, it means it's a clear perception, like at maturity chloroplast is turned into chromoplast. Chloroplast is turned into the chromoplast, or even chlorophyll will change or turn into the different pigments, like different chromoplast pigments, like it's a xanthophyll, it's a carotene, it's a phycocyanin, it's a phycoerythrin, or even XYZ. Fine, okay? Right, fine. So here, what we need to elaborate, one more point that we need to elaborate here in this plastids. So the first part in this plastids are the antioxidant that we have done. The second part is what? It's a photosynthesis. And because of this photosynthesis, plants are auto which plastids have more antioxidant? Siddhant. Any plastid. Vitamin C is the good source of the, citrus fruit is the good source of the antioxidant. Lemon is the good source of antioxidant. Right? Carrot is the good source of antioxidant. Fine. Even tomato is the good source of antioxidant. So we cannot make a justification like this much of percent is more in the case of this one, or even yes, Naina. As leaf matures, what happened? Listen, here we have two conditions. As the leaf matures, now the leaf colors are going to be changed. And the changed leaf colors means the leaf with the changed colors are going to be sustained. That make a sense of here means chloroplast is turned into the chromoplast. Clear? Fine. But listen what happened. If the leaf is going to be yellow, right? And then after a couple of days, if you're going to see now after yellowing, this leaf is going to be drooped down. It is detached from the plant. So that part is not conversion of this what we are talking about. That process is the etiolation and the senescence. That is the falling of the leaf. So the green leaf is not going to be fall from the plant, right? So when we talk about the senescence of the leaf, how this is going to be done, right? The green leaf will start losing its chlorophyll and the chloroplast, means the green leaf is going to lose its photosynthetic ability. And then what happened? This leaf will suffer from the food scarcity, and as a result of the food scarcity, this leaf is going to be drooped down. So that process is the senescence, is a different process. The senescence is a very different process which is very common in deciduous forest. So if you just look at the deciduous forest, probably in the month of the February, March, we are not going to see any leaf on the plant. Why? Because all leaves are drooped down. Yeah, that is the process of the senescence, because all leaves have completed its cycle, and then finally it is completely drooped down, and then a plant is further followed by the new leaves. That is a different process. But see, if the green leaf is turned into the colorful structure and that leaf is going to be sustained for a longer time, it means what happened here? This chloroplast is turned into the chromoplast. Siddhant, if you want to ask this kind of a question, so I have shared my number to you, right? You just text me after the class, and then I will let you know which chili is which chili has more antioxidant than, I will give you the comparative analysis of all chilies, right? But this question is not a right time to discuss this kind of the question, because it is not required for the exam. We are running out of the time. Fine? Okay. So see here. So the second part is the photo, and see Maria, in respiration or the catabolism, O2 should be released instead of CO2. Maria, be particular about in the process of respiration. When we talk about the respiration, either it is the case of the plant or even this respiration is the universal aspect that is required for all living organisms. We are respiring and we need oxygen. Now this time we are suffering from the oxygen scarcity. This oxygen is required to respire. Right? This oxygen is required to respire. So whether we talk about the respiration in the case of plant, or whether we talk about the respiration in the case of animal, or whether we talk about the respiration anywhere, it means this respiration always requires oxygen. And the result of this intake of oxygen is what? That is the carbon dioxide will come outside. Right? So always in the process of respiration, oxygen is required and the carbon dioxide is released. So be particular about this. Now this time we need ventilator. This ventilator is required for what? Whether we talk about plant, whether we talk about the human, whether we talk about any living organism, this oxygen is required. This ventilator is required. This oxygen chamber is required. Why? Because just to facilitate you, and the facilitation is what? Nothing but just to ensure the process of the breakdown of the food, so that your each and every body part energy and the body part cells and the tissues will be energized. So always in the process of respiration, oxygen is required and the carbon dioxide is released as a byproduct, and in this process energy is released, and that energy is required for the growth and sustenance of the life. I hope you understand. Fine, okay. So in this process of photosynthesis, what happened? Plants are going to take carbon dioxide from air, atmosphere through the stomata, and the stomata is opening on the leaf. Water from soil through xylem. And the result is what? This process takes place in the presence of sunlight and especially chlorophyll. The result is C6H12O6 plus oxygen. This is the process of photosynthesis. And the balanced reaction is plant used to take 6 carbon dioxide as a 1 unit, 6 water. The result is C6H12O6, 1 unit of glucose, and then 6 molecule of oxygen, and this oxygen is released as a byproduct. Clear? So why we go for the afforestation? Why we need to plant? Why? Because plantation is required for the purification of the atmosphere, and the purification of the atmosphere make a sense of what? right, purification of the atmosphere, make a sense of there must be the abundance of the oxygen. So this oxygen, when we are going to plant, the plant will photosynthesize, and as a result of photosynthesis, this oxygen is released as a byproduct, and this byproduct is required for the purification of air. This is required for the purification of air. Right? So afforestation leads to purification of the air, because more forests result into the more oxygen, and the more oxygen, it means what? The concentration of oxygen is going to be increased in the atmosphere. That clearly make a sense of air is going to be purified. Fine, okay. So here this is the entire step as a carbon dioxide from atmosphere. Carbon dioxide means plants are the natural carbon sink. Right? Plants are natural carbon sink. Plants are natural carbon sink. Carbon sink is where carbon is going to be sink. Where carbon is going to be sink. And the going to be sink is what? Where the carbon is fixed. So plants are the good carbon absorber, and then plants, after absorbing carbon dioxide, plant used to take water from the soil, and in the presence of the sunlight and the chlorophyll, the result is what? It's a glucose, and this glucose is required for the sustenance of the plant as a product, while the byproduct is what? It's a byproduct is the oxygen, and this oxygen is required for the purification of the air. So I hope you understand. I hope you understand. I hope you understand. If yes, please let me know. Allow me to proceed. I am just waiting for a response. Okay. So, see here. See. In this process of photosynthesis, you know what is going to be done? Just hold. Now this is what it's a main process that we are supposed to start. What we have done so far here, look at this slide. There are two steps. In fact, in this entire process, the two steps are going to be done. The first step is water splits and oxygen release. This is the step number 1 that I am going to take it on the next page. And the second step is what? It's a carbon dioxide will turn into the carbohydrate. That is the step number 2. This first step is the splitting of water and the release of oxygen is the step number 1. Right? And the second step is the carbon dioxide will turn into carbohydrate. So I am just taking the entire discussion on the next page so that you feel connected and you feel comfortable. So see here. Here in this process of photosynthesis, the first step is what? Splitting of water and release of oxygen. This is step number 1. Clear? This is the step number 1. And this step is followed by, in this process, energy is released. Energy is released. And the released energy is in the form of ATP plus NADPH. Fine. In this process, sun's energy, visible light is required. Visible light is required. and that's why this process is called as what? It is light reaction. This process is light reaction. This process is light reaction. This process is light reaction because this process is light dependent process, and in this process what is going to be done? In this process water splits and oxygen released. Water splits and oxygen released. So listen, see here, in this process actually what is going to be done? This visible light is what? Visible light, the unit of the visible light is what? It's a photon. And the photon energy is converted into ATP plus NADPH. This is what? It's a chemical energy. So this process is also known as photochemical process. This process is also known as photochemical process, and this photochemical process takes place in chloroplast. Where exactly in chloroplast? In granum of chloroplast. It's a part of chloroplast. Granum is a part of chloroplast. Granum is a part of chloroplast. Fine. So this takes place in the granum of chloroplast, and this process is called as the photochemical reaction, because photo means light energy in the form of photon is turned into the chemical energy, and this chemical energy is ATP plus NADPH, and this energy is released. This energy is released after the splitting of water into oxygen. So the first step is splitting of water and the release of oxygen. Splitting of water and release of oxygen. That is the reason behind oxygen releasing step is confined only during daytime. Means only in light period is the logic behind why we are comfortable nearby tree, especially during daytime, because of the abundance of light, because of the abundance of oxygen. Right? That is the step number 1. If you see here the step number 2, so in the step number 2, what is going to be done? This carbon dioxide will turn into carbohydrate with the help of energy of the light reaction. Means this step is exothermic, while this is endothermic. Fine? And this process is dark reaction. This process is dark reaction. Fine. This process is a dark reaction. Why dark reaction? Because this process is light independent. It's a light independent process. Means this process is going on both during day and night. This process is going on both during day and night. That is the reason behind. Right, this process takes, see, this process is only light dependent. This process is light dependent, while this process is light independent, and this is going to be done both during day and night. So as a whole, if the question is like photosynthesis takes place during daytime or night time or both, so the most of the people they are confused that photosynthesis is a daytime process. Rather, photosynthesis is the 24 hours process. It's a 24 hours process that is going to be done all along the 24 hours one phase is restricted. One phase is restricted to the light period. Otherwise, the second phase is the light independent, and that is going to be done throughout, means 24 hours, because it is light independent process. Fine. So photosynthesis as a whole is 24 hours process, and this process is thermochemical reaction. Clear? And this takes place where exactly? In the stroma of chloroplast. This is the part number 2. It's a part number 2. So the part number 1 of this chloroplast is what? The part number 1 is the chloroplast, is the granum, and the part number 2 of this chloroplast is what? It's a stroma. And in grana, and grana is a place for the position of pigments. So photosynthetic pigments are lying in the granum part, while stroma is a place for enzymes. Clear? So the light reaction is depending upon the pigments, while the dark reaction is enzymatic reaction. Dark reaction is enzymatic reaction, and if you're going to club these two, so these two are the two steps of the photosynthesis, and if you're going to club these two, so that make a holistic approach of the photosynthesis. And the holistic approach of the photosynthesis means what? The complete process of the photosynthesis is 24 hours process. It's not a day or night, rather it's a 24 hours process. One phase is restricted during daytime, while the other phase is independent of the light, and that could be what? Both day and night time. Right? I hope you understand. Yes, I hope you understand. Okay? And when we talk about the visible light, when we talk about this visible light, fine. So this visible light is what? Here, the spectrum of this visible light is what? It's a 400 to 700 nanometer. It's a 400 to 700 nanometer. It's a C6S12O6. It's a C6S12O6. And the visible light spectrum is 400 to 700 nanometers. So again, one more time I am explaining. As a whole, photosynthesis is two steps process. One is the light reaction and the second is dark reaction. This light reaction involves splitting of water and releasing of oxygen, and in this process energy is released in the form of the ATP plus NADPH2. Means this process is exothermic, and in this process is also known as the photochemical reaction, and this process takes place in the grana, where there is a position of the pigments in the chloroplast, while the dark reaction is the endothermic process, which involves carbon dioxide to carbohydrate, which is endothermic process, and this process is, as a whole, is the thermochemical reaction, and this thermochemical reaction takes place in the stroma, where there is a particular enzyme for the commencement of this entire process, and this is the light independent process. Fine. And as a whole, 400 to 700 nanometer light is required for the commencement of this entire step what we are talking about. Fine. 400 to the 700 nanometer of the light. Fine. I hope you understand. From where energy is released? Ritik. See, you can see here the source of energy. Light reaction is the source of energy. Ritik, if you can see me, you see here, the light reaction involves the releasing of energy in the form of ATP plus NADPS2, and the same energy is consumed in the process of the Dirac reaction. And listen, let me make you clear once again. The pace of light reaction, the speed of light reaction is faster than dark reaction. So that the product of this light reaction is, the product of light reaction is what? That is the energy. The product of light reaction is consumed during daytime, and the product will also be consumed during night time when the light reaction is absent, right? So in the dark reaction, which is the energy consuming step, and the source of energy is nothing but it's the light reaction, and the speed of light reaction is always faster than the speed of the dark reaction, just to compensate the requirement of energy, right, both in light and the dark phase. I hope you understand. Namrata, endo means, listen, exo means outside. So energy, there are two terms. One is the exo, that is the outside, and endo means inside. Right? So that concept is applicable in every aspect. So energy releasing step, that is the exothermic. Energy consuming step, that is the endothermic. Right? The same concept is also involved in the photosynthesis. This process is, and in fact, this is the thermodynamic aspect. Right? So in nature, you must be knowing about the nature. Either any kind of the chemical reaction is either going to, any kind of the reaction takes place either with the requirement of the energy, or this reaction or this chemical reaction is going to release energy. So here we could see here that both the steps, like one step is the energy consuming step, and the second is the energy releasing step. Is that clear? Fine. And one more point here. When we talk about this, there's a term like PAR. This PAR means photosynthetic active radiation. So when we talk about this photosynthetic active radiation, it means we are talking about 400 to 700 nanometer. So visible spectrum of light, it means the light in photosynthesis. It means we are simply talking about the PAR. We are simply talking about the PAR, and this question was asked so many times in exam. So the PAR means the light, the spectrum, the light involved in the process of photosynthesis. That is the PAR means photosynthetic active radiation. Is that clear? Is that clear? Can we go ahead? Okay, right. Now, there is also one more term of the artificial photosynthesis. See here. We need to consider one more term as the artificial photosynthesis. Artificial photosynthesis. And artificial photosynthesis means what here? The purpose of the artificial photosynthesis is, the ultimate purpose of the artificial photosynthesis is a pathway from sunlight to the fuel. It is required for the fuel production. And the fuel production is what? It's a hydrogen based fuel. So when we talk about the artificial photosynthesis, it means we are simply talking about the light reaction. We are simply talking about the light reaction. We are supposed to consider only light reaction of photosynthesis. We are supposed to consider only light reaction of photosynthesis. Only. Right? Only light reaction of photosynthesis that we need to consider, nothing else. So the artificial photosynthesis is a process nowadays that we just started experimentally, and the intention is what? To produce, the consumption means use of sunlight to produce hydrogen based fuel. To produce hydrogen based fuel. Right? So see here, look here, it's the input of solar light. See, it's a solar energy. Solar energy. When we are passing this solar energy through, it's a chip. And the chip has semiconductor. This chip has semiconductor. Okay? See, the chip has semiconductor. Fine? And see what happened here. This semiconductor will ensure, this semiconductor, see, this is what? It's a light. And this light will ensure the breakdown of the water. And here the product is what? It's the hydrogen. This product is the hydrogen. The product is hydrogen. Yes? And this hydrogen is the product. Yes? And this hydrogen is used to make, to develop hydrogen based fuel like methane, like it's a carbon monoxide plus water, and it's a syngas, or even methanol. Clear? It's a carbon based fuel with the help of hydrogen, and the intention is what? It is used for the transport fuel, it is used for the raw material for the industry, it is used for the electricity generation. Means in the long run, we are just trying to substitute or replace. We are just trying to substitute or replace fossilized fuel by hydrogen fuel. And nowadays, we are talking about hydrogen as a clean fuel. Right? So this is what it's a step. Means this process is totally banking upon the light reaction of the photosynthesis that we are doing artificially with the help of semiconductor. With the help of semiconductor, where semiconductor traps, absorbs light energy, and this ensures breakdown of the water into hydrogen as a product, and then this hydrogen is used for further energy generations, means further product, and these products are nothing but it's a carbon based fuel, and these carbon based fuels are used for the different aspect like transportation of the fuel, raw material, or the electricity generation. That is the simple aspect of the artificial photosynthesis. And these semiconductors are also known as artificial leaf. Artificial leaf. We are providing the source of the oxygen is what? Oxygen as a raw material we are providing. This oxygen as a raw material we are providing, because this is the commercial aspect, right? So we are doing everything. Since this oxygen, this water is used as a raw material. Water is used as a raw material. And the intention of the use of the water is what? Hydrogen as a product which is used for the further aspect, and then oxygen is, the released oxygen is required for the purification of the air. So water is the raw product for this entire discussion what we are talking about. Is that clear? Is that clear? Is that clear? Let me show you one more diagram. You see here. You see here. This is the natural process of photosynthesis. Where this light ensures splitting a water molecule and the release of oxygen. And in this process, the released energy is required for the fixation of carbon dioxide into the sugar. This is the natural process. Right? This is the natural process. And then artificial leaf, that is the synthetic leaf, has a semiconductor. Fine. And when this semiconductor is being passed, this semiconductor traps in a light. Fine. And then this semiconductor, it excites electron, which is required for the splitting of this water molecule. And the source is what? It's a hydrogen. And this hydrogen, the source is hydrogen. And this hydrogen is the source of these hydrogen. This hydrogen is the source of fuel. And hydrogen is what? It's a clean fuel. Hydrogen is the clean fuel. No. Waja Ansari, glucose is not the product in artificial photosynthesis, because the intention of artificial photosynthesis is not glucose synthesis. Rather, the intention of artificial photosynthesis is hydrogen production. So simply you can compare this entire process of artificial photosynthesis. Simply you can consider this entire process of artificial photosynthesis, right, compared to the light reaction of the natural photosynthesis. So for the light reaction means we are performing this light reaction of the photosynthetic artificially through the semiconductor, and the intention is the releasing of the hydrogen for the future aspect of the fuel, and now it leads to the artificial process of the photosynthesis. And this is also called as what? It's a green machine. And it's a new generation of the sunlight harvester, and that will be more useful than ever before. And the intention is what? Intention is hydrogen based fuel. Intention is hydrogen fuel. Is that clear? If clear, please just note down, go through all discussion. If anything is required, explanation is required, please let me know. Otherwise, you please allow me to proceed. Yes, so what we have done in the plastids as of now, one is the antioxidant as a source of antioxidant to neutralize free radicals. The second is photosynthesis, and the third is the artificial photosynthesis. Right? In these three concepts, if you are willing to ask anything, let me know. Otherwise, we are going to proceed the fourth concept under this plastids. Yes. Yes, sweetie. Oxygen is also released in the process of in artificial process of the photosynthesis. But our intention is not for the oxygen. Probably we could also see this could also be possible in near future. We are also going to use this oxygen in oxygen cylinder, or we are also going to sell this oxygen, because what we are talking about, it's all experimental nowadays. So here the intention of this artificial photosynthesis nowadays is what? That is just trying to replace the fossil fuel economy through the hydrogen fuel. But could be possible because this oxygen is released as a byproduct. So may be possible in near future we are also going to sell this oxygen as a byproduct. Sure. Again, I am summarizing the slide. In this process of artificial photosynthesis, this semiconductor is acting like leaf, yes, and this semiconductor is absorbing light, fine, and as a result of the light, electron is getting excited from the semiconductor, and this electron is required for the splitting of water molecule, and as a result of this, electron is required to split this water molecule, and as a result of this splitting, hydrogen on one hand is going to be released and oxygen on other hand is going to be released, and we need hydrogen for the future perspective. Namrata, semiconductor is absorbing light, and as a result of the absorption of the light, this semiconductor induces electron, and you must be knowing about for any chemical reaction there must be the involvement of the electron, right? So here, if I am going to take on the next page, here this photon means light is falling on the semiconductor, and this semiconductor releases electron. Yes, and this electron is required to split this water into another. So this is acting like what? Light absorber. And this semiconductor is acting like light absorber, that we named as a green machine or artificial leaf. Pragya Singh, can we use salt water in this process? This is all experimental. ठीक है, क्या आगे use करेगा that we don't know, but as of now what we are using I am talking about. In future if something is going to be done, so in that case I will let you know. We have not started using this commercially. So what we are talking about, it's a new concept, experimental concept. Fine? So once we start using this for the commercial aspects, we are going to use so many other aspects. We are going to apply so many other aspects. Right, fine. So, fine. Now, the next is plants also needs minerals in this process of photosynthesis, growth and development. Plant needs minerals, and these minerals are nutrients. Yes, these minerals are nutrients, and these nutrients are either macro or micro. Macro means in large quantity, micro means in small quantity. Yes, small quantity. Clear? So these are basically carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. And these are zinc, boron, etc. Right? Fine. So for this mineral and the nutrients, for the mineral and the nutrients, we are simply using fertilizers. We are simply using fertilizers. You heard about NPK usually. These are fertilizers. So taking it on the next page, I am just going to take this on the next page. Fertilizers are the source of nutrients. Fertilizers are the source of nutrients. Yes? And these fertilizers are required to replenish soil nutrients. Fine? And here these fertilizers usually we are using chemical or inorganic fertilizers. Yes, like urea, like ammonium sulfate, and urea, ammonium sulfate, like potash. And you must be knowing about nowadays this urea is what? It's a neem coated. It's a neem coated urea. Nowadays it's a neem coated urea, ammonium sulfate and the potash. But even you must be knowing about excess use of this chemical fertilizer. Excess use of chemical fertilizer, it leads to what? Salinity. It leads to salinity. And this is the after effect. Listen everyone, are you getting my video properly? Please let me know. Are you getting my video properly? Please let me know. Are you getting my video? Please let me know. So everyone saying yes, except the one or two. So if you are not able to get my video, means if you are going to get the accurate signal, so this is just because of your internet speed. Otherwise, everybody is responding like, audio and the visual collections are proper. So if someone is not able to get video properly or even the pause videos, this is just because of the internet speed. Fine? So listen, the excess use of thanks everyone. Yes. So thanks everyone. So the excess use of chemical fertilizer, this leads to salinity in soil, or even this also leads to ground water impurities. Yes. Right? Rather, you ground water impurities as a whole. In the generic term, we are talking about this inorganic fertilizer. Rather, you just use it as a chemical fertilizer and don't use this, otherwise you will be confused. Here the intention of using this word inorganic is what? Listen, the intention of using this word inorganic means what? Intention of using this word inorganic is chemical, means factory made. Organic, see there are two terms. I am not talking about this inorganic and the organic technically. I am just talking about the word inorganic and the organic generic on the generic basis. So the word organic means what? Organic means the biological in nature. The source is biological, means living organism. Right? Once living organism is the biological in nature, that make a source of the organic. Otherwise the chemically synthesized, that make a sense of the inorganic. In that concept we are talking about. Atul, I am just coming to this question. I am just coming to your question. Let me complete. I am just coming to this question. Why this urea is a neem coated this time? Fine. So it's ammonium sulfate, potash and neem coated urea, and the excess use of, and you see the best example of the use of chemical fertilizer that we have ever seen where exactly in the green revolution. But even if you just look at that drastic effect after the green revolution, the most of the region of the Punjab is now become sterile, is now become saline, and the soil lost its fertility just because of the excess use. Right? That is the worst after effect of the chemical fertilizer. Right? Fine. So then nowadays we are simply shifting from the chemical. We are shifting from the chemical to organic fertilizer. And organic fertilizer means what? Which is derived from once living organism. Which is derived from once living organism. Means living organism, once living, or the product of living organism. The product of living organism. Fine. And here this and here this forming is the use of this organic fertilizer, and this forming is what? It's a organic form. The use of this is what? It's the organic forming. Organic forming. Right? So when we talk about this organic farming, when we talk about this word organic farming, see here, see, this is what it's the organic farming. This is organic farming, and once we talk about this organic farming, this involves, see, crop rotation, this involves green manure, this involves vermicompost, this involves manure, this involves biofertilizer, this involves animal husbandry, means cow dung, and not cow dung, it's animal dung. This involves biological management. Clear? So this is the organic farming in perspective, in a wider perspective, and the biofertilizer means what here? The source could be the compost, manure, the source could be compost, manure, or organic waste. Fine. So this farming is what? It is emerging these days. And the product of this farming is what? It's the organic product. And this organic product is what? It's a chemical free product. It's a chemical free product. It's a chemical free product. So here, when we talk about the organic farming, this involves so many components. What we have mentioned here, these components are already been mentioned here. Fine. And if you see the beneficial aspect of this organic farming, allow me to proceed. Means this is what?